Hello, my beautiful people. My name's Kristen. Thank you for taking time stopping by my channel. I have my book reviews for the books that I read in the month of March, and I will hold up each of them as always. You can scroll through, look through the ones that you want to hear about. I usually read a classic and a nonfiction and a popular fiction, and then whatever else the wind blows into my reading path. So I do want to start with a book that I think everybody might want to hear about. There's not many books that I kind of put in the category where everybody could kind of get something from it. But this one you may have heard some about, and I read it this month and would like to recommend it for many things. And that is this book. Who's it? Charlie Mackesy? I'll show you. It's this beautiful book. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. And so what it is I don't know that you want, I think it's maybe even listed as a children's book. It's got pictures, just a few words on each page, and just the illustrations are fantastic and beautiful, but the premise of it is just these animals journeying and being honest and real and kind of giving beautiful life moments and you know, encouraging one another, loving on one another. Here's this page. It says, "To be honest, I often feel I have nothing interesting to say," said the fox. "Being honest is always interesting," said the horse. It's just, I think this would make a fantastic graduation gift for a student going off to college. I think this would make a lovely even baby shower gift to have in a nursery and start to read to even a young child. I think a child of any age. I think a business executive who's kind of stressed out and just kind of needs a word of encouragement. This would be a fun birthday kind of card, even, if you will. Yeah, it's $22 retail hardback, and I just think it's a beautiful book, just totally worth it, worth reading several times. I read through it a couple times and just really, really love it. So start with something very positive. My classic I read for the month was Vanity Fair, and this is over a 700-page book, William Makepeace Thackeray, and this was written back in 1840s, and it was written in, it doesn't say. Maybe I'll shorten that and edit it, but keeping it real. It was basically a series in like a magazine, right? And it is all around the Vanity Fair of looks and money and success and all that thing. And the two main characters are two girls, Amelia and Becky. And Becky is kind of, she's very interesting and does a lot on her, kind of out of her times, if you will, and she's getting in trouble. She's always mouthing off or being flippant when she should be proper. So anyway, I read over 200 pages of it, almost 300, and after about the first 50 to 70 pages, I started getting lost. There is a lot of characters, a lot of back and forth, and I got lost. So finally I started Googling like Cliff Notes, the actual Cliff Notes, and reading it after I'd read a chapter and then read that. And it's a pretty interesting story, especially if you're looking at it from kind of a historical basis or whatever. But when I got to, you know, over 200 pages, and I just thought, this is too much work. This is just, I appreciate it for what it is, but you know, maybe this just maybe isn't my cup of tea classic. So I might go back to it and try it again later in life, but for right now I'm going to table that one. So that's actually a DNF book, DNF classic. then back to something very positive. My book of the month and new release was the final revival of Opal and Nev. It is a fictitious story told as if it's a documentary narrative of a band that is on tour and having its family issues and struggles, and it's written very much in the theme of Daisy Jones and the Six. And so I really, really liked it. And what this book kind of has, that's a different slant, if you will, is Opal is a Black woman who is also trying to be kind of a little bit of a prophetic voice, you know, and trying to stand up for some of the racial tensions and injustices that she sees. And I really, really appreciated this book just in the sense that it kind of spoke to those voices and to those narratives without being real in your face or real political, if you will, about it. You know, just kind of, it's really helpful when we know stories, right? When we hear the person's experience with something, and then it makes it that much easier for us to understand and for us to have a better glimpse into a different perspective than maybe our own, or a new way of looking at something, because we didn't live that story or that experience. And so I really liked that kind of flavor that was into it. And just a fun story. I just thought that there were times that were very serious and times that were kind of lighthearted and even a little funny. So I really like this, and I, you know, definitely give that a 4-star. Next, this is a book I might spend a little bit of time talking about, and if you're scrolling, maybe stop a minute, because this book is worth reading for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, but you might not have heard it or think that you want to read it. Thomas Sowell is an economics professor, and this book was actually written back in the earlier 2000s, so it is probably almost 20 years old right now, but it basically does an outstanding job. It was written not for students, because he does write college level textbooks that are a little bit heady and I really have to go slow and read through, but this one's written for the lay person, for the person who doesn't have all the academic cred, just to understand a lot of back history about the economy, because he's an economist, but really about culture. And it traces in depth about slavery, about the different origins of the different slave trades that were coming over, about clearly talking about the differences between the South and the North, the blacks in the North versus the blacks in the South. It just gave so much dialogue and facts, and it started talking about, here's an actual school that did this, here's where successes were happening. And it's really interesting, because you think about the politics in terms of, we don't get to hear a lot about the successes, right? It's like, why don't we? I mean, I struggle with that. It's like, why don't we look at things that are working and where things are functioning and proper, and take from those and build upon those, instead of allowing them to get run over, if you will, by the greater voice that isn't really necessarily right for the community. And I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but if you have any interest in that kind of dialogue that's going on now, I think this book was exceedingly helpful. And part of it, why it is for me, a white woman, is Thomas Sowell is a man who grew up Black in the United States, right? He was born in the South, in the Carolinas. He went up to New York, the Bronx, during the civil rights. He's still with us today, but he is 90, if I'm not mistaken. So he just is one of the smartest people. This is somebody that actually was rooting for and was hoping that they would run for the president of the United States. And he bills himself as a free market libertarian, but he was a fan of Marxism and looked at many different economic models in his career. It's just, his writing is fantastic. Thank you for letting me take some time to hash this out. Again, if you have any interest at all in that, well written, very, very thoughtful. Let me see if I can show you real quick. This is one of those books that I sat down with and just started marking and putting words and underlining and you know where you underline the passages and put little stars and write in the margins, and 5-star book for me. It was really, really good, really, really thought-provoking. And I don't know if I'll be able to put ads because I'm talking about racism, and that usually gets tagged in my videos as not ad worthy. So I'll probably just not put ads with this video because it's worth talking about. That's one last point. One last point. If we get tagged and flagged for talking about racism, how do we ever fix it? Okay, that's my last point. Still fooling on Billy Crystal, his autobiography. Dollar Tree, so good. He's so funny, just like his characters, and like when you see him when he MCs, Grammys and Emmys and all those things. He's so funny, and he finds the love of his life early in his life, stays married, has these adventures, shares them with us. But he had part of his career that he struggled. He was at a real high point where he was popular, making a lot of money, and then he had some time period in there that it kind of ebbed and flowed, and he's just honest and real and funny about life. So I love him even more than before I read the book. So still fooling him, Billy Crystal, really good. And then it's funny because that was a recent Dollar Tree find, but on my TBR I have a stack of nonfiction that I was going to get to, and this is the one that came up just randomly. 2 comedians, 2 movie stars. So Revenge of the Nerd star Curtis Armstrong, this is his autobiography, and he's also comedians are just good writers, I think. They just write good material that is so honest and real, kind of gritty. He did go through a marriage and divorce and then a remarriage, and struggled in his career as well, as most actors do, right? If we're totally honest and real. Just talking about different adventures that he had on the sets, a lot of working with Tom Cruise and what that was like. And it's a good book. It's just really, really entertaining, really easy to read. Those were both very, very easy and pleasurable and awesome to read. And speaking of easy to read and pleasurable and just whatever, it was March with St. Patrick's Day. And so I decided I was going to read Irish Born. This is actually 3 books. It's actually a trilogy. It's Born in Fire, Born in Ice, and then Born in Shame. And so I just want to say Nora Roberts sometimes is just so classic romance, strong woman overcome by the strong male. They hash it out and fight about whatever it is, come to terms, fall in love, get married, and have babies. It's just it's just ridiculous. But sometimes a predictable, good, nothing horrible is going to happen. There's some conflict, but it's never like dark and a horror story or anything, right? And Nora Roberts actually does a really great job of being charming. Like, a lot of it is cheesy, and I almost thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not in the mood to read this, but she's just so charming with the Irish setting. And this one, the Born in Fire is all about a glass blower, and I love going and watching the glass blowing, and so just a lot of the detail of that and premise around that. And then the next one was an author. The man was an author, and the woman was an innkeeper, and that was just really cute. And then the third one I'm actually still reading. I've still got I just started the third one, and anyway, I think it's funny, because each one, because it's a trilogy, they'll weave some of the backstory or the back mysteries of the overall land or the overall family. And so it's interesting. So I will be actually reviewing my last little thoughts on this next month in April, and look forward to picking up, reading some more, going to get another classic and cleanse my palate from Vanity Fair, move on. If you have read any of these and want to give me some feedback on them, or if you are reading something super awesome and want to leave me a comment to look up something, I keep adding them to my wish list and my dream list, and I read books quite often that people have recommended to me. So if you want to do that, or for one another, leave me comments. Let's have some dialogue. You have a fantastic day. Take care, stay safe, stay healthy, keep reading, and I will see you again soon.